My four closest friends from childhood all fell for the new transfer student, fighting over her with a jealousy that was almost comical. When I suggested that the choice of who to be with should be hers, the girl, Isabella, twisted my words, accusing me of calling her a gold digger. She then made a show of crying and running out of the villa my friends had provided for her, only to get into an accident that left her supposedly injured. To get revenge on her behalf, my childhood friends systematically destroyed my family's business and reputation. My own life ended in the cold waters of the ocean, sold to a foreign country, a final tragic footnote to their revenge. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on that trip for 6 people, the one where Isabella had conveniently only booked 5 rooms. I didn't hesitate this time. I turned around and walked away, leaving the 5 of them to their tangled, dramatic lives. Clara, don't push me! A woman's shrill scream cut through the air. I blinked, my vision clearing. I was standing on the white deck of a yacht, the waves churning below. In front of me was Isabella, poised to fake a fall into the water. As my memories of a past life flooded back, I understood where I was. This was the yacht trip my friends and I had planned to celebrate the start of our senior year of high school. It was this exact trip that had marked the beginning of my downfall. There was no time to think. Before she could complete her act, I took a deep breath and dove headfirst into the very same waves she meant to use against me. To anyone watching, it would look like Isabella, in a clumsy attempt to save herself from falling, had pulled me in with her. It was a risk, but a necessary one. I could only hope my countermove would be effective. Quick, save her! One of the guys yelled. Isabella's voice followed, laced with fake concern. She just bumped into me. How could she have fallen in? That girl is so manipulative. Even while pretending to be the victim, she couldn't resist getting a jab in, framing me. Suddenly, a figure jumped from the deck. It was Daniel, the most straightforward and physically imposing of our group. He always acted on impulse, a trait that didn't quite match his handsome face. In my previous life, his feelings for Isabella had run the deepest. He was swimming towards me, intent on a rescue. The irony was I was an excellent swimmer. I'd been scouted for the national team as a kid. But if someone was going to play the hero, I was going to play the damsel in distress. I started to flail, pretending to drown, and when he reached me, I clung to him tightly. I made sure to drag him down just enough that he swallowed a few mouthfuls of seawater before he managed to haul me back onto the yacht's deck. Leo helped me into a sitting position as Isabella rushed over, wedging herself between us. Her eyes were welling up with tears, her performance in full swing. Clara, are you okay? She asked Victor, the oldest of our group. Please don't blame her. She was just trying to help me up. Victor's family owned a significant portion of the country's coal mines, and he was used to being in charge. Isabella was the only one who ever seemed to challenge his authority. I cut her off. Of course I'm not okay. Why don't you try falling into the ocean and see how you feel? And you call that kindly trying to pull you up? Isabella's question was clever. Most people would have instinctively said they were fine, downplaying the whole event. That's enough, Clara, Victor said, taking control. You bullied Isabella before, so now you're even. Leo, take her back to the cabin. Although Isabella would never apologize, I considered this a small victory. At this point in my previous life, all 4 of them were already captivated by her. It had only taken 1 year since she transferred to our school for her to wrap the 4 most influential boys around her finger. I'd even heard Daniel was considering giving up his athletic scholarship to study art, just to attend the same university as her. Isabella was an art student, recruited for her exceptional painting skills. She was particularly skilled at creating forgeries, her imitations almost indistinguishable from the real thing. Well, well, Sister Clara, how did you manage to look like a drowned rat so quickly? A bright, cheerful voice broke the tension. It was Ethan, who always had a smile on his face, though now it was tinged with mockery. He was 2 years younger than us, about to start his first year of high school. This sunny, smiling boy was, in reality, the most ruthless of them all. It was only before my death in my past life that I learned the ruin of my family was almost entirely his doing. I pushed down the hatred rising in my chest. I would deal with him, with all of them, in due time. For now, I was the victim, and none of them had said a word in my defense. Only Leo, the light in his eyes obscured by his gold-rimmed glasses, seemed thoughtful. He put an arm around my shoulder and helped me back towards the cabin. Clara, he began, don't fight with Isabella. She's different from you. I interrupted him, my voice low. I don't want to talk about her with you. Can you just leave me alone for a while? Growing up, I had always been attached to Leo. He was known for being cold and quiet with others, but with me, he was talkative, almost like a fussy older brother. He had once told me he wanted to become a doctor for my sake, because I had sensitive skin that scarred easily and a love for rough and tumble play. He was always the one to patch me up after I got hurt. Clara, I'll be afraid, he'd said. I'll protect you in the future. Don't worry about those scars. I'll become the best doctor in the world and remove them for you. If Isabella had never appeared, everyone assumed Leo and I would have ended up together. But there were no ifs. Soon enough, my 4 childhood friends would turn on each other because of her, while she played the part of the weak, innocent flower needing their protection. Just as in my previous life, our arrival at the small villa Isabella had chosen was met with a problem. Only 5 rooms had been booked. There was a sea view room for Victor, an equestrian-themed room for Daniel, and rooms near the pool for Ethan and Leo. As for me, I was clearly not part of her considerations. When I found out there were only 5 rooms, I thought it was fate, a chance for me to sleep with the sweet Clara, she said with a saccharine smile. I can make the bed for you. Please, just put up with it and share a room with me. In my past life, I hadn't put up with it. I had been furious that I was expected to be inconvenienced, just so she could impress the others. I'd thrown her luggage down from the second-floor landing and told her to go share a room with whichever one of the guys she liked best. That was the night she ran off, and later, her right hand was stabbed and permanently disabled. Everyone blamed me. They said I had ruined her life. I had even started to believe it, feeling a crushing weight of guilt. If only I had just shared the room, maybe none of it would have happened. I tried to accept her, to compensate for what I thought was my fault. I remembered going to visit her at home, only to find Leo and Ethan fighting fiercely on her doorstep, while Victor and Daniel looked on with cold anger. They had completely forgotten their lifelong friendship. I had nothing to say to them, but it bothered me that in all their fighting, no one seemed to care what Isabella herself wanted. Feeling I owed her, I spoke up, saying the right to choose who to be with should be in the girl's hands. That simple statement was twisted into an accusation that I was calling her a gold digger. She ran out of the villa, was knocked unconscious in a supposed accident, and my life spiraled into ruin. This time, before I could even respond to her offer to share a room, Daniel lost his patience. That's enough, Clara, he snapped, annoyed by the pleading look Isabella was giving me. Isabella looked at me cautiously. Clara, if you really don't want to, I can sleep on the floor. Is that okay? She asked, her voice trembling. I watched her performance, a morbid curiosity growing inside me. How could someone be so good at lying? Not a single word out of her mouth was true. It was hard to believe she had fooled everyone. But her hand had been genuinely injured. The memory hit me with the force of a physical blow. I was in a dimly lit club, wearing a revealing uniform and serving drinks to wealthy patrons. Life's hardships had worn me down and my cheeks were sunken. I was a ghost of my former self. It was the best paying job I could find after my family went bankrupt. And then I saw her. Isabella, caked in heavy makeup, was nestled in the arms of a burly man, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. I lowered my head, trying to be invisible as I poured wine. Brother Ting, she purred, did you take care of that scoundrel who stabbed me? Make sure there are no loose ends. The man chuckled, his hand sliding up her thigh. That's your own father. Are you sure you want me to handle it? I watched as Isabella reached up with her right hand and caressed the man's ear, which was missing a small piece. Her voice was as cold as a snake. So what? He disabled my hand. Anyone who stands in my way should die. They kissed, their passion grotesque. I clenched my fists, my knuckles white. It was all fake. Her story about being an orphan, the story about her hand being disabled because of me, even her being knocked unconscious. We had all been played for fools. Even then, a small part of me held out hope. Maybe my friends would believe me. Maybe their affection for her wasn't as deep as it seemed. I found them and asked, "If I told you that all the harm Isabella has suffered had nothing to do with me, would you believe me?" Leo gave me his answer. A sharp, searing pain shot through my right hand. He had stabbed me with a knife, the blade twisting in my palm, shredding tendons and grating against bone. They said I owed it to Isabella. As I crumpled to the ground, the last thing I saw was Leo holding the knife, and the other three, Victor, Daniel, and Ethan, lounging on a sofa nearby, watching with lazy indifference. The same boy who swore he would become a doctor to heal my scars had just maimed me without a second thought. After that, I was put on a ship. The guard's chatter revealed my fate. My 4 childhood friends were selling me to the lowest class red light district in a foreign country. They wanted me to become a real gold digger. I chose the sea instead. As the waves closed over my head, my last thought was of the sheer absurdity of my life. I had been so wrong about people. But even more ridiculous were my so-called friends, so arrogant yet so easily fooled. We had all forgotten about the man with the missing piece of his earlobe. He was Marcus, Daniel's cousin, and a member of our school's board of directors. Isabella's sudden appearance as a transfer student now made perfect, sickening sense. A beautiful, resilient girl hailed as the new campus queen who accidentally stumbles upon 4 wealthy, influential boys. It was a classic hunter disguised as prey scenario. People's hearts are unpredictable, especially when ambition is involved. Isabella's ambition was obvious. Seeing that I wasn't going to agree to share the room, her expression crumpled into one of profound grievance. She made a show of reaching for my suitcase, then recoiling as if she was afraid I would lash out. Finally, summoning her courage and glancing at the 4 boys standing behind her for support, she knelt on the floor in front of me, crying pitifully. I stood over her, my face impassive. Her small, kneeling figure made me look like a tyrant. Suddenly, Ethan kicked my suitcase over. "Clara, don't be so shameless. Isabella is begging you. What more do you want?" His voice was sharp and vicious. The other 3 glared at me, their expressions hardening. Victor pulled Isabella into his arms. "Clara, I'll assume you're just being childish. Apologize to Isabella and we can forget this ever happened." I looked at the 4 of them, one by one. They were strangers to me. My suitcase lay on the floor, but I didn't bother to pick it up. I just grabbed my purse and walked towards the door. "Clara, stop this!" Leo called out, rushing to grab my arm. "It's getting dark. Where are you going to go?" I wrenched my wrist from his grasp. "Who says I have nowhere to go? Did you forget this entire holiday villa belongs to my family?" After leaving the villa, I went straight to the alley where Isabella's accident had taken place in my previous life. I found a quiet spot in a cafe with a second-floor window overlooking the area. Soon enough, Isabella appeared, arguing with a stooped, middle-aged man. I took out my phone and started recording, using the audio focus feature to zoom in on their conversation. "What kind of father are you?" Isabella's voice was sharp and clear. "Have you ever done anything for me? Now I can sell a single painting for millions. Who are you to tell me what to do with my life?" The man pleaded with her, his voice too low to hear, but his words clearly enraged her. Suddenly, she pulled out a knife and lunged at him. The man's shirt quickly stained red. Then came Isabella's own pained scream as she drove the dagger through her own hand. The man collapsed in a pool of blood, motionless. Isabella fled. Just as she rounded the corner of the alley, she ran right into my 4 friends, who had come looking for her, their faces etched with worry. No one noticed the man lying in the shadows, but I wouldn't miss such a valuable witness. The summer vacation ended. Isabella's hand was, as expected, declared permanently disabled. The incident, however, brought her and the 4 boys even closer. I heard they had started a business together and made a small fortune, which they used to buy her a new villa. They were tied together now. Being reborn hadn't gifted me with a super intellect, but it had taught me the value of patience and planning. I decided to do some good to make up for my own unfulfilled dreams. I found Alex, a 14-year-old swimming prodigy whose talent had fizzled out by the time he was 18 in my past life. He had incredible natural ability but lacked professional training. A few years from now, he would have been a rising star, winning international awards. He was also the cash cow for Daniel's family company, which pushed him to win every competition, regardless of his injuries. Their greed grew, demanding he break records in every race, and when he finally failed, they gave him stimulants before the World Championships. He was caught, and his career was over. They blamed him for everything. Looking at the 14-year-old Alex in front of me now, so full of potential, I knew I had to change his fate. "Will my grandma come with me?" he asked, his eyes wide and trusting. Alex lived with his grandmother, his only family. It was no wonder he had been so easily exploited. "Of course," I assured him, "but she needs to go to the hospital for some rest first. I'll take you to see her after your training tomorrow." A light sparked in his eyes, making his already handsome features even more striking. I enrolled Alex in the junior high division of my school and told everyone he was my distant cousin. I kept my plans to myself, finding it was most effective to play the fool while being the smartest person in the room. The peace, however, didn't last long. Victor and the others came to me with a new business proposition. They wanted me to invest, offering me a family and friends price. The truth was, they had quarreled with their families for insisting on being with Isabella and were now short on cash. I didn't refuse immediately. I was genuinely curious about what they saw in her. My answer came from an unexpected source, the man I had rescued from the alley, Isabella's father. As soon as he was conscious, he asked to see me. He had a business proposal of his own. "Miss Clara," he said, "Isabella can't paint anymore, but with the few paintings she has left, if we manage them correctly, their value could be limitless. You'll have the final say." I was tempted. Soon, rumors began to spread that Isabella was the secret daughter of a noble family. Any painting she produced was a masterpiece, selling for an astronomical price. Her public image transformed from a parentless transfer student to the reclusive young lady of an elite family. Many people were more tempted than I was. Victor's family, despite their wealth, were still considered new money. They had originally planned to marry me to elevate their social standing. In my past life, they had succeeded in ruining my reputation by using the story of me bullying Isabella. Then, guided by Ethan's cunning plans, they had systematically dismantled my family's empire. But this time would be different. I wouldn't be tempted by the small profits from Isabella's art. What tempted me was the exquisite pleasure of building someone up to the highest pedestal, only to kick it out from under them. Victor, always arrogant, was ecstatic about Isabella's new pedigree. The other three doted on her as well. Leo even skipped his senior year classes to travel abroad with her, seeking medical treatment for her hand. They were all fawning over her except for Ethan. He came to find me. "Hey, Clara," he said, his usual smile gone, replaced by a gloomy expression. "I hear you have a new little follower. Found a new playmate?" I didn't look up from packing my school bag. "Did you get into a fight with your dog? Your breath stinks." "What I do is none of your business. Now get lost." As I stood up to leave, he grabbed my arm, his grip tight. "Clara, don't be ungrateful. Isabella has been looking for you. With her new status, you can't just bully her anymore. You'd better watch yourself." Before he could finish, Alex appeared, knocking Ethan's hand away. The boy had grown taller recently and had a new air of confidence. "Talk if you want to talk," Alex warned, his eyes sharp. "But keep your hands to yourself." I pulled out a wet wipe and carefully cleaned the spot on my arm where Ethan had touched me. "Isabella's little errand boy," I said with disgust. "Don't worry, your master isn't in a hurry, so why are you? Good things come to those who wait. She'll see me soon enough." I patted Alex's shoulder. "Let's go, my good little brother. I'll invite you to watch a big show in a few days." The last part was for Ethan's benefit. Ethan was the most ruthless of them, and in both lives he was Isabella's most loyal devotee. In our past life, he had fought with Leo in front of Isabella's house because Leo's parents refused to accept her. Isabella cried for 2 days, and Ethan beat Leo up to defend her honor. To outsiders, it seemed Isabella, like me, had favored Leo. But in this new life, with her manufactured noble background, perhaps the doors to Leo's family were not so firmly closed. I intended to show Ethan a big show, but Isabella's trip abroad for medical treatment dragged on. The rumors about her background only intensified. In her absence, I focused on preparing for my college entrance exams. I wanted to get into the best university, a second chance I wouldn't waste. I had my mother hire a bright, innocent-looking physics major from that university to tutor me. He also helped Alex with his schoolwork. Alex was a gifted athlete, so his academics just needed to be passable. He was self-motivated, adding an extra hour of practice to his schedule every day. His lean frame began to fill out with well-defined muscles. With his presence, even boring physics lessons became more enjoyable. After the college entrance exams, Isabella and the others finally returned. The big show I had promised Ethan was ready. In my past life, my family's downfall was hastened because we had helped Victor's family cover up their illegal activities, which in turn ruined our own reputation. The Hugh family owned countless coal mines, many of them privately and illegally operated. With substandard equipment and non-existent safety measures, accidents were inevitable. They suppressed the minor incidents, but when a major mine collapse resulted in dozens of deaths, they were facing ruin. I remember Victor and his father kneeling before my parents, begging for help. We did, and in the public's eye, we became complicit. Looking back, it was clear they had planned it all along. Use my family to clean up their mess, drag us down with them, and then finish us off. This time, there would be no help. In fact, I would be the one to light the fuse. It all started with my physics tutor, Ben. He was a scholarship student my father had sponsored. He once had a happy family, but a mining disaster took his father from him. His mother died from grief and anxiety after her quest for justice proved fruitless. Ben buried his parents with nothing but his father's old clothes and hat. He provided me with a wealth of information. There were many other children like him who had lost their fathers and brothers in that same disaster. Time hadn't erased their pain. Through Ben, I was able to find many of the victims' families. The truth about Victor's family was about to come to light. In the end, it was Leo who won Isabella's affection. They announced their engagement. She was pregnant, which explained the rush. I felt a slight twinge of pity, knowing the trump card I had prepared was about to be played. At the engagement party, I found Leo and said, feigning sympathy, "It's a shame, Leo. Your own engagement, and you can't even meet your father-in-law. Don't you feel it's a bit of a pity?" The implication was clear. Isabella's grand family looked down on him. But Leo was in high spirits and just smiled, welcoming me in. Isabella, however, was not so composed. Her expression flickered, and she quickly pulled Leo away. I remembered asking Leo in our past life if he truly liked Isabella. He had sneered at me. "Why wouldn't I? You want me to like you, Clara. You always act so high and mighty, like it's my duty to please you. Who could love someone like that?" It wasn't until Isabella appeared that I knew what it felt like to be loved. She would comfort me when I was down. That was after I had scolded him for neglecting his studies, telling him he would be a terrible doctor. I felt guilty for how sad he looked and asked Isabella to check on him. I remembered the time she gave him a scarf she had knitted herself to keep him warm. I had been waiting for him after class, but he never showed. I had forgotten to tell him I had a competition that day. He was angry at me, and I felt bad imagining him standing out in the snow. So I gave Isabella money and asked her to buy a scarf and give it to him. Thinking back on it now, I wanted to curse my own foolishness. And his. The members of Isabella's fictional elite family from the capital wouldn't show up today even if she were dying. But her real family was another story. I picked up a glass of champagne and watched the entrance. The show was about to begin. A stooped, disheveled man burst into the banquet hall. He grabbed Isabella, crying loudly, "Isabella! I'm your father. You stabbed me and I was in the hospital for 3 months. Why didn't you visit me once? Now that you're successful, you can't just abandon me." A shocked silence fell over the room. This shabby man was Isabella's father? She panicked, trying to deny it. "I don't know him. He's lying. Someone get him out of here." The man pushed past her and rushed towards Leo's parents. "You're so lucky to have Isabella marry into your family," he gushed. "If she does anything wrong, you can discipline her. You can even beat her. She's tough, just like me. Look, we even look alike." He lifted his matted hair to show his face. There was a resemblance. He then pulled out his phone, shouting for everyone to watch a video. "She's so heartless. Look at how hard she stabbed me. She's not a young lady, she's an attempted murderer." He threw the phone onto the carpet. Someone picked it up, but Isabella snatched it away, threw it to the ground, and stomped on it hysterically. Leo stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Victor pulled the sobbing Isabella into his arms, glaring at me. "It was you, wasn't it, Clara? How long are you going to torment her?" I sat calmly at my table, nibbling on a pastry. The dessert was actually quite good. Daniel was the first to confront me directly. "Clara, can't you just let her be happy? What has she ever done to you?" Slap. My hand connected with his face, hard. I slowly wiped my hand on the tablecloth, then stood up. Leo, finally snapping out of his daze at the sight of Isabella in Victor's arms, rushed over to me. "Clara, stop your little games. Even if you break us up, it's useless. If you think I'll get back with you, you're dreaming." Slap. I hit him even harder. "What are you talking about, you lunatic? The happy occasion must have gone to your head. I feel dirty even hitting you." Before they could react, I signaled the bodyguards I had placed among the guests. They formed a protective circle around me. I addressed the stunned crowd. "Since everyone is still here, let me show you something else." The large screen at the front of the hall flickered to life. It began playing a series of explicit videos featuring Isabella and each of the four friends. Leo's mother fainted. Each of them had believed they were the only one, so they had eagerly cooperated when Isabella suggested they record their beautiful moments. Now the bride-to-be was hiding in the arms of the groom's best friend, and the groom's face was a mask of disbelief and rage. Victor, seeing the evidence, shoved Isabella away from him and she fell to the ground. Leo, his eyes red with fury, grabbed her by the collar, screaming at her. "Look up, Isabella," I said calmly. "There's more." The next video was one I had secretly recorded. It exposed her entire scheme of forging and selling ancient paintings. That was the source of all her money. It was a shame. She had real talent, but she had chosen a criminal path. No one is getting away today, I thought. The evidence for all of this came from Marcus, who had been arrested some time ago. To reduce his sentence, he had willingly provided proof of all their illegal activities. It turned out that the four friends weren't just innocent boys charmed by a pretty face. When they realized how much money Isabella could make from her forgeries, they became her willing accomplices, finding buyers and sharing the profits. Her accident had cut off their source of wealth, which is why they had turned on me so viciously in my past life. People are driven by greed. I was just a pawn in their game. The final video was a conversation Marcus had secretly recorded between himself and Isabella. It not only confirmed their art fraud, but also delivered the final devastating blow. Isabella, speaking tenderly to Marcus on the screen, said, "Brother Ting, can you imagine? The eldest grandson of the Leo family will actually be the child of a Marcus. Won't they be furious when they find out? It's funny just thinking about it." I don't know if they would be furious, but Leo looked like he was about to explode. He had truly fallen for her, or at least for the benefits she could bring. Daniel was drawn to her beauty, and Ethan, strangely, seemed to worship her like a master. But Leo's feelings had been real. I knew from my past life that he had been so desperate to heal her hand that he had even considered a hand transplant, performing several illegal operations in his family's private hospitals before giving up. I had originally only planned to expose the family's business of selling illegal birth certificates, but this was even better. It was all connected. The engagement party ended with the main characters being led away by the police. My new life could finally begin. I didn't expect a scene from my previous life to repeat itself. Victor, who should have been in custody, appeared in my family's living room, brought by his father. They both knelt before my parents, begging for mercy. "Clara," his father pleaded, "I beg you, please let Victor go. As long as you're willing to let us off, he'll do anything you want." I was coming down the stairs, looking over Alex's training data. My parents were too soft-hearted to refuse, but I wasn't. I sent them away and faced the father and son alone. The man who had once been so arrogant was now a mess, his clothes disheveled, a stubble on his face that made him look 10 years older. He kept his head bowed. "Clara," he mumbled, "I was blind. I mistook trash for treasure. Please, let me go. I know I was wrong. I'll give you all the money from the paintings." He became more agitated when I didn't respond. No, I'll give you all of our family's money. I don't want to go to prison. I'm still young. He crawled towards me, grabbing the hem of my pants like a dog begging for scraps. His eyes were filled with fear, but he wasn't a pitiful puppy. He was a wolf. If I didn't deal with him decisively, he would surely come back to bite me. I pulled my leg free and kicked him in the shoulder, knocking him over. I had to be ruthless to protect myself. After only a year of training, Alex was already competing in provincial leagues. Clubs were trying to poach him, but he remained loyal. Money can corrupt people, but those with a conscience will still do the right thing. I knew that firsthand. When I was a child, I had broken my leg saving Ethan from a fall, an injury that ended my own swimming career. I never blamed him. He was just a kid. The family businesses of my former friends were all seized or shut down. My life finally returned to a state of peace. It would have been perfect if not for Ethan. I was leaving through the back door one day when he found me. He looked haggard, his usual sunny smile long gone. He was becoming more like the Ethan from my past life, the one who lurked in the shadows. "Clara, sister," he began, his voice pleading, "I need to talk to you." "No," I said flatly. "We have nothing to talk about." I tried to walk past him, but he suddenly pulled out a dagger and stabbed it into his own right hand. "What if I told you I came back too, Sister Clara?" he gasped, blood dripping onto the pavement. "Can I make up for what I did? What do I have to do for you to forgive me? You don't know. After you died, I found out Isabella had lied. She wasn't the one who saved me back then." "I don't want to hear it," I interrupted, raising my hand. I had already suspected he was reborn. The anonymous tips my father had been receiving about mismanagement and embezzlement in his own companies. The sudden halt to the tax evasion scheme Ethan had been planning against my family. It all made sense. Blood dripped from his hand. He pulled the dagger out and tried to press it into my hand. "Here, take it. As long as you can forgive me, I don't care about the pain." I motioned for my bodyguards to stay back. "So what if you came back, Ethan? People who make mistakes have to be punished. You should live with your guilt for the rest of your life. An apology doesn't erase what you did." I took the bloody dagger from him, wiped it on his clothes, and then tucked it into his coat pocket. I wiped my own hands on his shirt. "Just looking at you disgusts me. Take your little tool and get lost. A new life is always a pleasant thing." I didn't see Ethan for a long time, though I heard he had become a recluse. I would occasionally receive anonymous gifts, things I had once mentioned I liked when we were kids. They were useless to me now, just like him. The days passed quickly. I hired a world-renowned coach for Alex, and his performance skyrocketed. I was there for every competition, big and small, a way to live out my own lost swimming dreams. Soon, he was competing in the World Championships. In our past life, this was the competition where he was framed for using stimulants. This time, he not only won, but broke the world record. My new sports brand soared in popularity along with him, and I was named one of the country's outstanding young entrepreneurs. Life was good. Alex grew up, his handsome, boyish face now topping a swimmer's powerful physique. He was nearly 1.9 meters tall before he even turned 18. I was watching a replay of his race in the hotel lobby when some girls approached me, asking who the celebrity was. They were shocked when I told them he was an athlete, even more so when they noticed he was still wearing a child's phone watch. "Alex," I asked him later, "why don't you use the phone I bought you? Aren't you embarrassed to wear that old thing?" He carefully fastened the strap, giving me a look that said I didn't understand. His eyes were always warm, full of a quiet devotion. "Sister Clara," he said softly, "when I'm training alone, people on the subway always ask for my number. When I show them this, they leave me alone. Besides," he added, his gaze unwavering, "having you is enough." We had a new future, and it was bright.